Hi there, it's Billy. I'm an architect from Brisbane, Australia. I want to talk to you today about all things briefing. As we film, we're going through these COVID-19 restrictions, a lot of people spending a lot of time at home. And so as a practice, we want to develop some resources that can help you make this time productive. And briefing is really just the beginning of the project. We're trying to set the parameters of what's going into the project, how we're going to approach it. I want to say that with briefing, some clients come to us with nothing, some clients come quite well prepared. And this video and this accompanying document is really for those who want to put in some work to sort of get a head start with their project. And so let's look into it. I want to explain all things briefing. And yeah, let's have a look. So let's start by looking at the practical brief. And in the document, if you scroll down, the first part is quite self-explanatory. We just want to know the rooms that you want included, approximate size if you have any preference, and a description. And that really is the baseline for the project. Next, we want to know about any current issues or constraints that might be on your property. So you might have an easement on your site. If you're part of an estate, there might be design covenants. Or if there's issues with your existing property, like water issues, or maybe the solar heat gain on one side. We just want to note that down and make sure we deal with it with your project. Then after that, we're looking at linkages. So if there are particular spaces that need to be close together and in relationship, I think it's helpful to maybe do a bubble diagram, some sort of quick sketch to note how the spaces link together. If there's anything unusual that you particularly prefer, this is the chance to jot it down so that we know to cater for it. And finally, we want to know if there's aspirational inclusion. So things that are nice to have that if budget becomes an issue, which it often does, then these things might be the first on the chopping block, so to speak. So people might have preferences for electronic toilets. Like that's a fancy thing that's nice to have, but if budget becomes an issue, that might be the first to go. So as we fill these things, that really sets the baseline for the project. On the next page, you'll see another table. So we're really starting to break the building down into components now. So with air conditioning, with all these other elements, we want to understand if you have any preferences for the type, and also maybe a description of how you use these things. So with aircon, we want to know, okay, is the standard split system okay, or do you want central or ducted splits that allow you to hide the unit away? We also want to understand how often you use these things, and so that allows us to interpret maybe the level of preference to give to these elements. With flow, we want to understand, okay, do you want a flush transition between the inside and outside? Because often that comes at a cost. Or are you happy to have a more sort of rigid demarcation between what's inside and outside? So you might have to step through something to go outside, and the feeling is quite different there. So as you go through these elements, just trying to sort of spur some pre-thinking before we start designing, and that's really what this table is for. Okay, the second part of our briefing document is what we call the aesthetic brief. And what we're trying to really get at is the feeling of space that we're creating. And to do that, we want to understand first the context. So your neighborhood, like what's the theme of the suburb? We want to design with that in mind. And also what you enjoy about your existing property. So really there's a lot of things on the page for you to fill out that explains that. The second part of that brief is to understand your preferred approach. And so this deals with what are some spaces that you enjoy? Trying to describe that, trying to understand maybe architects or designers that you really admire, and the architectural looks that people prefer. But instead of just copying these things, we want to ask why, like to understand deeper and to understand behind these looks that you prefer, what are the things that you really actually enjoy and love about them, and how can we incorporate them in an authentic way. And so on the next page after that, there's a few statements that are meant to be starting statements to help you think through the approach you want to take. You can tick and cross out things that you don't like. You can write your own, but really these are just to get the conversation started. And finally, we want to say if you have the Pinterest board, if you have magazine clippings, Google image searches, it's good to collect these, but what we encourage is if you can note or sketch over them, to understand what you really like about a particular image. So we don't want to just copy things, we want to understand what's good about them and then to really churn through and think about how we can incorporate them into your design. And so you can see here how I filled out the video for my own house in Moorooka. Hope you find that helpful, and then we'll step into the emotive brief. The last part of our brief is what we call the emotive brief. And this is very important to us as a practice. We really want to understand what you are passionate about, what makes you get up in the morning. And you might be thinking, okay, it's just a house, like, why does this really matter? But for us, I think a project, it's a bit like a funnel. We work from the big picture down to the smallest detail before we go into construction. And really the thoughts that are the basis of the project, the big picture thoughts, do get distilled down and do affect the decision making along the way. And we can give you an example with our project on Tamborine Mountain. There's this really strange solid brick wall that you have to step through into an uncomfortable space, very narrow courtyard that makes you look up at the sky. And then you sort of turn sideways, walk through a corridor before you step into a living room where the view is revealed. And the whole story of that project is because the client sees this house as a new beginning, as a new chapter of their life. And that whole feeling of discomfort and stepping through into a new reality, that's all because we knew that was the story that we had to tell through the building. With our own house here, I think a lot of my thinking was shaped by this book called The Gospel Comes with a House Key by Rosaria Butterfield. I think as a person who, like, faith plays a big part in my life, and that book really asked the question of, well, how does faith change how you live? And I think as we were challenged by that book, it really helped us to shape the direction of what we wanted to do. And that's why you see downstairs, as we're putting in a new extension, it functions on one part as an office space that could be our studio, but then it's also multi-purpose. It also can be reconfigured into a bedroom, into a small studio unit, with the thought of showing hospitality to family, friends, or even strangers as needs arise. And I really want to encourage our clients to think this way as we move forward past COVID-19. If we can build that flexibility into our designs, then we're able to help and to consider helping proactively, not reactively, as needs arise in our life. And so that's my encouragement to you. Think of what's really important to you, what gets you up in the morning. And as we understand that, as we know that, that will really shape our design as we move forward. Well, that's it for our video. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you found it helpful. Please feel free to get in touch with us if you want to chat about your project, or even if it just helped you in some way, we'd love to hear about it. So feel free to send us a message or a quick email. We'd love to hear from you. If you want to have more content, I think over the next few weeks we'll be developing more resources to help you get through this quarantine time productively. So make sure you follow us, Facebook, Instagram, or just click like and we'll get more video content and helpful resources to you. Thanks again for watching. Talk to you next time.